On this edition of Native Report, we visit the studio of IndianCountryTV.com, an alternative outlet giving voice to the Native community. We look at renewable energy and how one nation sees potential written in the wind. And we visit Keeley Radio, one of Indian Country's largest Native-owned and operated radio stations. We'll also hear from our elders and learn something new about Indian Country on this Native Report.
Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Metawakanton Sioux Community, the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, the Blandin Foundation, and the Grotto Foundation.
Welcome to Native Report. I'm Stacy Thunder. IndianCountryTV.com is a cutting-edge Native American media outlet. It all started with a government-owned paper which became the independent publication News from Indian Country, one of the first Native publications to make the transition to the web. Now as IndianCountryTV.com, this venture continues to evolve to meet the needs of a fast-changing world.
An ordinary office building on the Lakota Array Reservation is home to one of Indian Country's leading news outlets.
Okay, and welcome to this edition of the Native News Update. I'm your host for today's program, Paul Demain. Many of the stories right here can also be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com or in the featured section of the TV studio at IndianCountryTV.com. Here are the news stories for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources.
Editor Paul Demain and his staff know the news industry is changing, and they are evolving with it.
I think we're on the cutting edge. We seem to be one of the only Native business organizations who are now doing video this way in live stream and using all the different social networking sites. I'm sure there will be more. There are Indian YouTube sites. There are a lot of people doing video in different configurations. You can find video. You can find video on your program in different places and embedding, and so you know a lot about that whole idea. 6 or 7 months ago, we got up one morning and pretty much declared that our primary product is no longer the hard copy newspaper. It's going to be online, and it's going to be online news and online digital programming, and that's what we sell, market, and train for and organize around. We know that this is a new industry that's been toyed with for 10 years, and we know that actually for the first 8 years, nobody could figure out how to do it efficiently. And that has to do with everything from production to upload. The live stream studio is a new idea. We've actually had several application updates in the last couple of months. Live streams was funded by Gannett about a year ago. They've been around a year. This industry is going around very, very rapid changes, and I know there's going to be more.
While technology may be progressing at a rapid pace, what hasn't changed is Demain's commitment to reporting news from Indian Country.
Digital technology has come a full circle. Newspapers were flat. You could take a nice picture, you could do a nice story, and you could feel the compassion if you had a good writer and a nice picture. You could go to radio and you could hear all of that. But when you brought it all together in the world of video and television production, you have everything. And it's what Native people used to do. It used to be the tradition of an orator who would get up there and plea for people to go to war, or plea for his warriors not to go to war because of the ramifications, or plea for provisions in a treaty right to Congress because those people, those orators, those speakers for the community had credibility. I've watched the news for many, many years. I enjoy news, and I'm always saying, where's the tribal programming? You know, and you see it, it tends to be the poor Indians, the rich Indians are the colorful Indians. And nothing about the sports people, nothing about the ballerinas we have in our community and the politicians and other things, all the subjects of everyday people. and real things, and that's what we want to do. We want to give Native people a chance to see themselves.
Kimberly Acosta is experienced in all aspects of the business. She sees her job, however, as more than just delivering news.
A friend of mine told me that there was this newspaper that was needing some help, so I went in there and asked them if I could get a job from them, and they're just like, well, you know anything about computers? I'm like, a little bit, not really. You know, back in '91, that's when they were just starting out with stuff. I did a little bit with computers in high school, and so he's like, well, go on that computer and do a resume. I'm like, okay. Then I did that, and I've been here ever since. I didn't plan on staying here, but I fell in love with the newspaper and with the idea of what it stands for to me. You know, people throw things away all the time, but people all over the country have every issue of News from Indian Country, and they call up and they thank us for things, you know, and we help them. They call up that has nothing to do with the newspaper, but they're like, can you help us to go and do this, save this or save that? And we'll do it. And then it's not something that shows up in the paper, but that's what it's about, you know, it's bigger than that. And I remember Keith Secola one time saying, you know, News from Indian Country is not up on the hill watching the fight. News from Indian Country is in the trenches with the people. He says, that's what I love about News from Indian Country. And that touched my heart because that's how I feel.
Transitioning from print to a wood-based format may be the future, but Domain believes the newspaper is still relevant and complements their other efforts.
I think there'll always be a reason for a hard copy. It's like, how do we adjust it? How do we make it continue to earn a living within all the other components? How does the news website, very difficult formula, I think we will get back to shutting out some sites, some pieces of the website, and charging for content, because what we're developing is what we call high quality customers. We're lucky we actually serve a niche community. And as we got into video, I began to realize, along with other people, how valuable it is. So the company is busy, I think, while serving the Native community, because what we've always wanted to do was give voice to the Native community. We wanted people to tell their stories. And so we've got into all this digital stuff, whether it's online eBay or whether it's video or so forth. It was about giving voice to the Native community and trying to get down to the what did I say, the lowest, richest, most valuable increment. And what that is the voice that is never heard.
Life could be much different for Domain, but he does not base the quality of living on personal wealth. Instead, it is the world around him that is more meaningful.
I came out of the governor's office years ago, and I could have stayed in the state of Wisconsin and be making $70,000 a year based on my seniority and you know, retiring in a few years with bennies and all that stuff. I could have gone to Washington, D.C., had a $100,000 salary, and become a lobbyist. Cringe, right? But I wanted to come home, and I don't earn as much money as I'm probably capable, but there's something about going out into the woods with your kids and digging wild onions, or going down to the lake and fishing some crappies out of the lake, or going down to the creek and hearing water flowing. That is a value that you can't get in a highly professional job in the city. In fact, sometimes you can stress yourself right out of existence in the big city, and you end up coming home anyway to do rehab. Too many common people feel that they don't have a voice, and yet they all have stories. They're all real experiences, and they're all important to the people that have them. And so what I like about what we're doing is I think we're bringing common stories about common people to the world.
Did you know there is a vast potential for Indian tribes to generate clean energy from renewable resources? According to a 2010 report by the National Wildlife Federation, tribal lands are capable of generating clean energy from renewable resources, including solar, wind, biomass, and geothermal power. Tribal lands cover 5% of the total area of the United States, but hold an estimated 10% of the country's renewable energy resources. In fact, tribal lands could generate enough solar energy to generate 4.5 times the national total energy consumption. According to the report, these clean energy projects on reservations could create jobs, including installation, maintenance, weatherization, and construction. Several tribes have begun in the field of alternative energy development, but the future is bright for tribes seeking to produce clean energy.
Renewable clean energy technologies have drawn the attention of Native nations across Indian country. These projects bring great potential for job creation and energy independence. The Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe in Minnesota has taken the step in that direction by producing a core part for Windspire turbines.
Native nations across Indian country are increasingly developing renewable energy sources, and for several, such as the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, the answer is written in the wind.
It just naturally fits in with the culture of the band and the protection of the environment and those kinds of things. The reason we got into wind power here in this district was through a committee of band members who live in District 2. They wanted to do economic development. They wanted to create jobs in the McGregor area and in their district. So they had been working for about 6 months pulling together an economic summit where they invited experts in a number of different options that could be selected to be pursued for economic development, and wind energy came up real high. And they were also looking at solar energy and a few other options as well. And we pursued it, made an investment, and worked on bringing this plant, or this assembly plant, to District 2.
The Chinoodan manufacturing plant in McGregor, Minnesota, is where a key component for a vertical wind turbine called a Windspire is made.
We produce a part for Mariah's Windspire. Basically, the Windspire is 4 components, and the component that we cover is the generator section. We produce the armature, which is installed into the generator, and that piece itself is the one that conducts the electricity or energy into electricity. So basically, we take raw material and put it through probably about 7 different procedures to get it to the final product.
The band's corporate commission invested in Mariah Power, now known as Windspire Energy.
It came together very quickly, which surprised us all. Mariah Power is a startup company. It's only been in business for, I'd say probably a couple of years, but they're really now starting to gear up, and they're actually selling the product and kind of finding new markets for their product. So it came in maybe 6 months, which was very quick for us, and for any kind of a partnership like that, but it just seemed to work out. They had a need. We had band members who wanted to work in the district, so we had the employees, and we had the capital to help them with that, and it just worked out really well.
Bringing jobs to an isolated portion of the reservation is one benefit of the partnership.
The need for jobs in this area for the band members that live here was really critical, and was also part of some of the groups that we talked about what jobs or what type of industry would be really beneficial to our area. And what it all boiled down to basically is looking at things that were more environmentally friendly for our district. So I think it just fit in line with what they were looking for, and the opportunity came up with Mariah, and it was just quick, and it was really a tremendous effort by this group of core people who worked on the committee.
When we initially looked at our projections, we looked at probably about 15 to 20 employees within 3 to 5 years. The economy, of course, has slowed that down a little with all businesses, but we're seeing some signs of improvement in the economy. So we're hoping that it will move up on that, and that's just the Mariah Power, the Windspire, the assembly of the Windspire. We're also looking at a lot of other options for this plant that could assemble other products as well.
This is phase 1 of the overall plan, with phase 2 being total production of the Windspire at the Chinoodan plant.
The start of the process right here is actually the wiring. The finished product requires 3 wired armature plates. So for example, this would be 1 armature completed unit right here. All the completed wired armature plates are brought over to this stage to do soldering at this point. The mylar is removed about 1 inch away from the very ends of these and are dipped into solder. Once Rick dips them, he usually checks to make sure that it has a complete solder gone through the entire product. He clips it, checks it, makes sure that it's a complete solder bond. At this point, all the plates are very similar, all exact, and once we move to the next stage after soldering, then they start forming into 2 different types of plates, Form A's and Form B plates.
3 plates are then glued together, and after a final quality inspection, the plates are shipped to the plant in Michigan.
This is a completed product. Labeled, it was placed into fixture 3. This is who the operator was at the time, the date that it was pulled out of the fixture, completed. This is the quality check to make sure that it was went through the process and went past each of the stages. Each one of these is connected or attached to the fixture when we send it out so that they know who manufactured this actual piece. So these are the 3 fixtures once they're in the form, top and the bottom. These are the pins that will be connected into the generator. And this is the product that we produce at this time.
The product is a great opportunity for the Mille Lacs Band, even more so because of how Native nations view their relationship with the environment.
I know that we're on the forefront of gaming, but also taking a look back at what our roots really are. You know, we just got done with ricing season here, and that's one of the things that you basically provide for your family for. So when you look at things like green energy, I think it's right in line with those basic hunting and gathering type things that we still practice, and that it just supports that, I think, even more.
Our elders provided wisdom, that the young men were the protectors and providers of big game, that the women were the nurturers and the gatherers, as we were hunters and gatherers, and the children could dream the dream based upon the virtues and values bestowed upon them. And as our culture changed, as we were defeated, we could no longer be hunters and gatherers. The new group, after the first generation being put on the reservation, the new group of elders had no wisdom to pass on as hunters and gatherers. Some began to break. The new group of men could no longer hunt the big game, could no longer protect. The military police became the protector and in many ways the suppressor, so our women stepped up, tried to provide wisdom, tried to be the protector, tried to nurture, tried to choreograph the dream for the young ones. Some of our women began to break, but not all. But it's our women who kept our culture, our tradition, our spirituality in place.
Keeley Radio has been the voice of the Lakota Nation for over 26 years. And now that voice is being powered by the wind.
This is Hercules. I'm going to be with you guys until 6 o'clock this evening. Then keep it locked to QEFM in Park Bar. You guys have a little bit of rock music this afternoon on Keeley Radio.
Keeley was started, it actually was an idea back in the 70s, you know, right kind of when AIM happened, you know, Wounded Knee. And there was at the time, really no place for them to get the word out, you know, about the situation. You know, the borderline radio stations, TV stations weren't really giving the Native perspective. So it actually started out, I believe, as wanting to do TV, and then they thought, well, we could do radio, you know. And I remember my uncle Reggie Cedarface talking about it. You know, he was one of the original ones that helped to decide to put the radio station here. And so the idea was really born in the 70s. And it didn't materialize until 1983, is when they first went on the air, February 25th, 1983.
Keeley Radio has been riding the airwaves ever since, giving a voice to the people of Pine Ridge.
In the morning we do powwow. Since we are a Native radio station, we try to keep it mostly Native American. And towards the afternoon, like around 10 to 2 o'clock, we do Native Contemporary, and that's with Native contemporary artists around the world as well as locally. So we cover them too. And during the about 2 to 6, we usually have the DJ. They come up here and we just keep it whatever they want to play. Like one of our DJs might like country, they could play country all they want. And then we got rap DJs that like to play rap and hip hop, some rock DJs. So we cover a variety of all the genres of music.
We have a variety of different DJs that play from jazz to blues to country to hip hop to, like, I like dance and Italian music, and you know, so you know, we just have a wide variety of different DJs that play a whole lot of different music.
We do a lot with the schools, and this is Pine Ridge School, and they come in for an hour to tell the people, the parents, maybe whoever wants to know information about their school. And they have a whole hour set aside where they could come in and tell their upcoming events. They could tell honor roll kids, you know, they could tell just about anything they want that has to do with their school.
From the voices of youth to birth and death announcements, safety information to coverage of tribal council meetings, information about life here at Pine Ridge finds a home on Keeley Radio.
We're actually the largest Native American owned and operated radio station, and that was been since we opened up, you know, until now. And we got an award one time for the Native American Music Awards, and they gave us the best radio station of the year. So we're still pretty proud of that, you know, and that's a good accomplishment.
Keeley Radio has fans all over the world who tune in via the internet.
I think we're going into our 4th year of streaming on the web, and it's at www.keeleyradio.org. We get a lot of listeners from abroad, Germany, Italy, Iraq. You know, I can track them on the internet and see them on a ship in the ocean, and you see that's where they're listening from.
Yesterday, some people from Germany came by, you know, and they were like, you know, I always listen to Keeley, I love Keeley, and that's why we're here, is to come see Keeley, you know. And I was like, that's cool, you know, for a radio station, a Native radio station, to be that good, you know, and people like it so much where they'd come all the way over here just to see it.
Now Keeley Radio is powered by the wind, thanks to a brand new wind turbine and the efforts of the Honor the Earth organization.
If you notice the design of the building, it goes straight up, and that was actually with the thought of having solar heating, you know, doing energy efficient things back then. And so they had always been talking about wind turbine and wind energy, and it really, we had an anemometer sitting down at the bottom of the hill for about 6 years. And they figured, well, hey, this is a great place for wind, you know. And so it took us about 6 years to get the money and everything in place to get what we got out there. And Honor the Earth really did a lot of work to provide the money. And the first chunk of it came from Angela Jolie, $25,000 started it. And so from there, we got some money from BIA and, you know, different organizations that helped to pay for the wind turbine and the whole project.
As workers prepare the wind turbine to start spinning, the folks at Keeley Radio are looking forward to a significant savings on their power bills and using those saved resources to improve their services to the people of Pine Ridge.
And I always tell people, if you really want to make an impact on the Indian reservation, help the radio station, because that impacts everybody. That gives them the weather, that gives them the school closings, that lets them know what's happening. If there's a tornado, if there's anything going on, there's a buffalo on the road, watch it, you know. It lets everybody know what's going on. It's the lifeline of the reservation.
For more information about Native Report or the stories we've covered, you can find us on the web at nativereport.org. Thank you for spending this time with your friends and neighbors in Indian Country. I'm Stacy Thunder. See you next time on Native Report.
Stacy Thunder is an enrolled member of and legal counsel for the Red Lake Nation. And Ted Johnson is an enrolled member of the Boys Fort Band of Ojibwe and is Solicitor General for the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Metawakanton Sioux Community, the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, the Blandin Foundation, and the Grotto Foundation.
Country. I'm Stacy Thunder. See you next time on Native Report.
Stacy Thunder is an enrolled member of and legal counsel for the Red Lake Nation. And Ted Johnson is an enrolled member of the Boys Fort Band of Ojibwe and is Solicitor General for the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Metawakanton Sioux Community, the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, the Blandin Foundation, and the Grotto Foundation. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Metawakanton Sioux Community, the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, the Blandin Foundation, and the Grotto Foundation.